don't really honestly like the business model of just flipping, buying for 20, selling for 40. Not fulfilling for me. So 2025, we're going after a lot of subdivides, a lot of survey hacks.
Understanding the 5-acre price versus like 50-acre price. The money counties are the ones where 50 acres is going for $2,000 an acre, 5 acres is going for $8,000 an acre.
A couple of people I've talked to, they said yes, they initially want to sell a piece of their land. Then I call them again, and then they said, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never talked to you in my life. I'm like, okay, this is bizarre.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm your host, Ron Apke, joined today by one of our students, one of our longer tenured students, Mike Poitras. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ron. How's it going?
Yeah, so let's just start, Mike. I know you've probably watched a lot of these. Let's just start, what's your story? What got you into land investing? What were you doing before land investing?
So I've always been kind of had that entrepreneurial mindset. I work the W2 job. I still do. I work in the construction industry, but I've always had a side hustle. So from a young age, I was, buying and fixing cars. I have an automotive background as well. So I was doing that for a little while. I got into low ticket drop shipping, and then I got into high ticket drop shipping just before the pandemic. And I was also doing a little bit of Amazon FBA. And around that time, during high ticket drop shipping, there was some mentors that I had during that were doing land, or they briefly talked about it. And I believe that's how I got into it. I want to say it was either through them or through Dan may have posted something on socials, and I found it that way. And once I found land, I dropped everything else. I stopped doing drop shipping. I stopped Amazon. I just stopped it all. And that's how
Was that because, was that like the potential you saw in it immediately?
Yeah, just the returns. The potential returns is just unheard of. There's no
Yeah.
other business model you can get into where you can make 50, 100% ROI on your money. It's just not possible anywhere else.
So you've been an entrepreneur, like you've always had that like entrepreneur spirit. You've always been doing something.
Yeah, oh yeah. So it's for probably the last 10, 15 years. Even before, when I was a kid, I was always doing something
hmm
related to trying to flip something to make money.
And then day job, is it seasonal as far as the construction, or is that like,
It's
what's that look like?
that varies all the time. It's been a little slow this year, but it's usually 50, 60 hour weeks.
Nice. So yeah, you're staying busy for sure.
Very.
And yeah, like I said to start, like you've been doing this land thing a long time. I'm excited to get into your story. So talk about, you said you found land and then like it just clicked for you. Talk about your first few months in land as far as what you did. Was it learning phase? I feel like you're going to be more of an action taker as far as like the learning phase was probably short and you just started hitting the markets.
Yeah, so I believe I joined July of 22, and I'm looking at my notes. My first mailer went out August of 22. And that was about 1,700 pieces of mail. And I got right out of the gate, I got 3 deals from that. And then next month, sent another 2,300 mailers, about 3 more deals. Next month, 1,700 mailers, 3 deals. And then I'm like thinking, oh my God, I'm just gonna be printing money for the rest of my life because this is crazy. And unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. So we can get into that, but after that, it's been a pretty rocky road.
Yeah. So first 6 months, like you killed it. Like how you had 5, 6 deals. What were those average profits you were looking at those
Um,
first few deals?
Gross profit, because I was using JV funding for those, they were like 20, $30,000 spreads on average.
So you're in a good spot, and you flipped those the market was pretty good back then, so I'm
Yeah,
sure you flipped them pretty
yeah,
fast.
yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, it's normal as far as having those hiccups, those rough patches. So mail was super efficient to start like getting deals left and right. Let's talk about like that transit as you kind of like hit some rough patches, maybe some slow spots. Was it no leads? Was it just not interested sellers? What was happening there?
So it's a combination of both. So after October had that successful mailer, from November of 2022 till July of 2023, no deals. I was sending
Wow.
out 1,500 pieces of mail every week, and just nothing was coming out of it. I was getting a lot of leads at that time. This was before the land portal, so there's just getting a lot of junk, getting a lot of landlocked properties, a lot of wetlands, a lot of slopes, just properties no one wants to buy. And so I was just having a hard time getting good leads to call me, and it's been that way almost since then till almost now. It's been that kind of rocky road. Now with the land portal, you're weeding down that list quite a bit, but now it's just not getting any leads at all. So it's only good
Mhm.
quality that you're sending out, but just getting people to call me back, it's been really difficult. You on average, maybe 5 to 7 calls per month, and
Yeah.
that's sending 5 to 7 thousand mailers a month.
Credit to you for sticking through it. Like it's a like that's a normal part of business for sure. Obviously, that's a little extended as far as that. I know it's you like you said you thought you're going to be printing money and you hit that rough patch. Well, let's talk about kind of what it's a new year. We just started a new year, so I'm sure you have some big goals going in there. Let's talk about how you've kind of transitioned like the business model. Like you said, like 2022, it was easy to find deals. Like it
Crazy.
wasn't as much of a grind to find deals 100%. And then like market competition, then it was a little harder to sell. And there's just different phases of the business for sure, adjusting marketing strategies. But talk about 2025. Like, what are you looking at in terms of like strategies, stuff like that?
So 2025, I'm going to be trying to do more, get away from mail, try doing cold calling. I don't really honestly like the business model of just flipping, buying for 20, selling for 40. I just don't feel like I'm doing anything. It's not fulfilling for me. So 2025, end of 2024, I hired a cold calling company, and now I that's all I do. And so we're going after a lot of subdivides, a lot of survey hacks. I have a few deals in the pipeline that start out as subdivide potential, but they're going to end up being double closes. So I have three of those under contract, getting ready to sell those. But
That's awesome.
2025 going forward, I'm going to focus on cold calling.
So cold calling, what does that volume look like?
Right now it's not too much. It's 4,000 a month.
Okay. So you have them cold calling, and is that like let's explain like as far as to the listeners, like is that cold calling like do they have a number in mind as far as offer price or just getting kind of is it kind of acting as a neutral letter as far as just getting interest?
Yeah, it's almost like a neutral letter. So the cold caller will reach out to the seller and just basically ask if they're interested in hearing an offer. So you do get a lot of bad leads, just people wanting to hear an offer with really no intention of selling. But once that comes in, it comes into the CRM, then either me or I have a new acquisitions manager will reach out to them and then kind of get those rapport building questions. They'll ask, about when did you get the property, why do you want to sell, and they just ask about the property and stuff like that, and then formulate an offer, call them back, give them the offer over the phone.
Before we get back to the show, guys, make sure to leave us a comment and hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications. Ron and I read through every single comment individually. It helps us plan our 2025, our topics, what you guys want to hear, and helps us improve the show. It means a lot, guys, and let's get back to the show.
Nice. So what do those three deals look like?
One of them is buy for 180, sell for 250. That's in Arkansas. We have one that's buy for 780, sell for 960 in South Carolina. And then a third is buy, it's not, this one might not work out, but buy for 300, sell for 360 in Ohio.
Yeah. That's the high ticket double closing Dan and I have been talking about for sure. And there's a ton of value you're bringing to the sellers. Like they don't have to deal with a realtor. They don't have to deal with all that stuff. Like just line up a buyer, they get money. They don't have to pay those fees, stuff like that. So that's awesome. You said 780 and sell for what?
960, so like 180K
Nice.
profit.
Anything under contract or what's that look like on the
Yeah,
market
all
right
three
now?
of them are they're all
Oh,
under
really?
contract
To sell?
to sell. Yes.
Oh my
So I
goodness.
just gotta
Wow.
list them. Yeah.
What's holding up with the Ohio one?
I just don't think, well, that one, I shouldn't say that one, we agreed on a price and he's kind of pulling back on it. So that one might not go through.
That makes sense. As far as the buyer.
Yeah. Or
Okay.
the seller. Like,
So these were all very targeted for subdivides, for survey hacks. And then talk about what happened to not make them subdivides or survey hacks, something that maybe went wrong on is it just negotiating, like they just wanted too much?
it's that. And what I'm finding is, which I think some people underestimate, is the whole goal of obviously subdividing is when smaller piece of land has a higher price per acre than a bigger piece of land, and that doesn't always pencil out. There are a lot of places in this country where a 5 acre property will go for 10,000 an acre, and a 200 acre property will go for 10,000 an acre. So there is no delta there. So that even
Hmm.
if you cut it up, you're gonna sell it for the same price anyway. So that's what I was finding in these areas, and I double checked it with agents. Like it's not even worth cutting it up because you can't sell it for any more than
Yeah.
what it's already worth.
That makes sense. And talk about the pitching of the double close. Is that something, as far as the sales aspect of that? A lot of people get nervous about pitching double closes. I think a lot of people. I mean, you have $400,000 of profit. It sounds like, and maybe I'm adding it up wrong in my
Yeah, it's
head, but
310 roughly.
yeah, 310.
Yeah.
Yeah, $300,000 of profit in your pipeline with double closes. Talk about the pitch. Is it just simple? Just like tell them what you can offer cash versus double close, or just like I can do this in 90 days?
Exactly. So there's a lot of value in, I think, just giving the seller options. So I always tell them a low cash 30-day close offer, and then I have a 90 to 120-day option where I'm offering obviously more money. And so, and I always offer that with earnest money down. I only put down $500, but when you do that, I think that adds a lot of value to you and makes it sound more serious. And so a lot of times they obviously have no intention of taking that low offer, and then that double closed offer becomes a lot more appealing to them.
And I think it was Kay the other day when I was talking to her. She was saying like a lot of landowners like they don't need money fast necessarily. There's some people situationally where you can get really good deals and like it is a faster thing, like the 14 days, 21 days, it's extremely valuable. Other people just want to like they're fine 120 days, they're fine 6 months. As long as you're communicating, you're providing the value there. I think the business gets shady when the us as land investors don't have intentions of selling or like don't actually know how to analyze the market value. Obviously you know how to do that and you know exactly what, and you're going to make it's going to be a great deal for you, the end buyer and the seller. And that's like the value you're talking about. Talk a little bit about that as far as like you said buying and reselling, just like it's just like the lack of value. Is it because not scalable without providing value? What's the reason there?
The reason for why I don't
Yeah,
like
just as
to,
far as like going away from the buying and selling, just not scalable, just not sustainable.
yeah, it's definitely scalable. I just don't really I just don't feel like I'm doing anything. Buying for half of market value or less and then just reselling on the market. I mean, I feel, I mean, we are providing value, but it almost just makes me feel scummy to an extent. Like I'm doing nothing, but now I'm just doubling my money on somebody. And so I want to, when you're doing surveys like survey hacking or subdividing, you're providing value to the seller, you're buying value to that market because you're now making all these lots that people could maybe build homes on. So I actually feel like it's just project based, I think is just more fun.
So talk about when you are let's talk subdividing first. Like what data are you pulling? What does that look like as far as when you're looking for subdividing in an area?
I use the land portal, and so I have a master spreadsheet. First, I base all my subdividing off of county regulations. So I have like a master spreadsheet. I just spent a few days just going through tons of counties and going over the regulations, and then picking the ones with the least restrictions and just putting them into a spreadsheet. So I have like 60 counties where there are pretty easy regulations. Platting exempt, or there might be minor platting, but nothing that involves you going in front of a county commissioner or anything like that. And then once I pick that county, I do what I believe your brother Mike does. He prices by, when I was doing blind offers, I was pricing by road frontage, and I would send offers based off of that. Now with cold calling, anything that has 1,000 or 1,500 square feet, 1,000 1,500 feet of road frontage or more, I'll call that owner.
So do you have a price in mind when they're calling you? I know they're not offered anything by the cold caller, or is it something like every deal you're kind of looking at?
Yeah, every deal I look at separately, which is
Okay.
I think is a better way because all these properties could be so unique. You can't just blanket state do a blanket on a whole county of subdivides because some have water features on them, some are a farmland, some are fully wooded. It's just I think you got to do it one. The best way is just each one individually price it as it comes in.
One thing you said earlier for subdividing is, and I didn't think about it initially, but yeah, I've been talking about it a little more the last few months. Is when you are looking for those counties, obviously restrictions are important. Also understanding the 5 acre price versus like 50 acre price, and if those are too close, like you said, like some areas they're so hot, it doesn't matter how much land you're buying, it's X dollars per acre. But the money counties are the ones where 50 acres is going for $2,000 an acre, 5 acres is going for $8,000 an acre, whatever the number is. Is that something you've started to look at, or like as far as your market selection?
Yeah, that's my number one thing. Like I tried, like as everyone who gets into subdividing, they try and go to Texas because it's 10 acres and up, it's exempt. But most places in Texas, if you're not doing any improvements, every property there is the same price per acre. Whether it's 5 acres, 100 acres, 500 acres, it's all the same price per acre. And the people making money in those areas, they're doing improvements. They're putting in roads, they're putting in driveways, they're fencing off the property. But that is what I'm looking. That is my number one criteria is looking for that price difference in the price per acre in an area.
That's huge. Yeah. So you go 2025. Like, what is a successful year in your mind in 2025?
I mean, my goal from day one was always like $1 million gross profit. So that's what I'm aiming for. But I want to do $1 million gross, mostly coming from either Subdivide, survey hacking, or some kind of value added plays. And it's still doing some flipping just to keep the bills paid, but mostly project based stuff is the goal.
Good start if you can do 310 in
Yeah.
January.
Yeah, that's yeah. If we keep on this pace, we'll be doing pretty good.
So down the line, like going past 2025 and beyond, do you have aspirations for bigger projects, more major, any major subdivisions, anything like that, anything that kind of sets you apart?
Not really. I'm not opposed to it. Entitlements are a little interesting, but just the time commitment and how long those can take. And a major subdivide, it can take a year, 18 months, 2 years. I'm not a very patient person, so I think sticking with minor subdivides is pretty much where I'll be, I think.
There's some areas too when you get real rural. Arkansas is probably like them as well, but you need to be in flatter areas typically where you can just put a dirt road and it doesn't have to be like you can subdivide off a dirt road with maybe less road frontage. And that those are very interesting areas to me where it's like a next step where it's still a minor subdivide a lot of times in some of these areas where you're just putting a dirt road and splitting off the sides and it's a little dirt cul-de-sac. Is that something you've ever thought about?
I have. I know you can do that in some areas of Texas. You can just put in, just bulldoze a dirt road in, and that's acceptable. So I have thought about that, but on the other side of that, it's finding those counties that allow that because a lot of some counties, or maybe a lot of counties, don't allow, dirt road frontage. It needs to
Yep.
be paved. So just it's just one of those things, an extra layer of due diligence you'd have to do before,
Yeah, I think
going forward with
you
the
get a
project.
lot of fire codes, I think, back there, and like
Right,
like
and
that's when we were trying to do it, it's like holy crap, and then like the road has to be 18 feet wide, and it's
yeah,
like
two access
$8
points in
per
and out.
square foot of road, and it's just turned into be like $800,000. Like, no, we're
Yeah.
not doing that. But we talked about subdividing, we talked about double or high ticket double closing. What about survey hacking? What's your thoughts on that strategy? Have you had any success yet, or any leads that worked
Yeah,
out for
I
that?
have no success yet. I tried doing it. I sent out like 3,000 mailers towards survey hacking a few months ago, and I was just getting a bunch of people who were just confused of what I was trying to do. Like I explained it clear as day on the letter, but they just weren't getting it. And so I think now that I'm going doing cold calling, it'll be better. I have been doing it, and I've gotten a few leads. Some of them very good, but a couple of people I've talked to, they said yes, they initially want to sell a piece of their land. Then I call them again, and then they said, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never talked to you in my life. I'm like, okay, this is bizarre. But I do have one that's 38 acres. The guy lives just on a corner of it. So he wants to keep 2 acres and survey off the other 36. And the other 36 has all the road frontage. So it's a
Mm.
nice rectangular piece. So that one, we're in negotiations. I'm trying to get it for 6,500 per acre. It's probably worth 12,000 per acre all cut up.
After you subdivide it more.
Yeah, if you subdivide it into
That would be an awesome one. I want to hear that once that if that goes through. That's
yeah.
really cool. And that's a house one too, guys. So what he's doing, it's a rectangle property. What I from what I can understand,
Hmm.
bottom left, let's just say 2 acres has a house on it. The guy doesn't want to keep the rest of his 38 acres or 36 acres, and he just wants to keep that too. Mike takes the 36 and then cuts that up, subdivides that. Ton of value to the seller as well. And that, like we talked about, providing value to the seller, you're going to get the survey, you're going to pay for the survey, you're going to get all that lined up. That's awesome. That's was that a targeted or was that something that just I guess you did target if it had a house on it?
That was targeted. Yep. Anything with a
Mail
structure
or
on it.
cold calling?
What?
Mail or cold calling?
Cold calling.
Okay, nice. That's really cool. So talk about those conversations, like a bunch of confused people that you, even when you got them on the phone, like you couldn't explain it to them with the mail.
Yeah, well, with the mail, once you get on the phone, you explain it, they end up not being interested, but they initially call saying like, "Why are you trying to buy my house? I live here." It's like, I don't want your house. I want like a piece of your property. And it says that clear as day on the letter, but they would just be like, "No, I live here. Why are you trying to buy my house?" And then once you tell them what you're trying to do, they're like, "No, I'm not interested." So I'm like, "Okay, this
Interesting.
isn't gonna work on that scale."
Is that what you're going to keep attacking survey hacks with cold calling?
Yeah, just because once you can get them on the phone quicker and just explain it quicker and easier and not have to waste that time of sending out mail for them to call you to say, I don't know what you're talking about. So I think it's just you're just cutting out some time.
And what does that like conversation look like when you're trying to As far as like, okay, do you want 2 acres with your house? Do you want 5 acres? Is that just kind of like question and answering, just kind of talking with them?
Yeah, so we just ask what are they willing to give up, and most of the time it's 98% of their property. Like if they live on 50 acres plus, they mostly say they want to get rid of like 40 or 45 acres. And very rarely does someone say, "Oh yeah, I only want to get rid of 2 acres."
Yeah.
But we let them decide, and then we go from there. We'll price it based off of that.
Anything on, are you doing any of that with vacant land as far as trying to survey hack any vacant land or no?
I haven't yet. I'm not opposed to it. So if with some subdivides that might not work, I mean maybe take a sliver of that. So that's something I am looking into.
Yeah, even if you like took 50 acres good road frontage and subdivided into 5, 10, and like you can keep this 10, I'll give you X dollars.
Hmm.
It's an interesting way to do it for sure. There's so many opportunities, I think, and there's no like, that's the thing. I don't have a blueprint for exactly what's going to work with how you do these different strategies. Like you said, the letter, if someone can figure out a way to give that letter, send that letter where people can understand what the hell's on it. Like you said, you made it clear as day, but I'm sure there's something to it. I don't know if you have any, if you were to test it again, if there's anything you would change on the letter.
There's really not. I looked over the letter myself. I'm like, this, I don't know why this is being misinterpreted. So I'm like, all right, I'm not going to scale this if this is what I'm going to get into. So I just got away from it. I'm sure someone can figure it out, but it's
Yeah.
not me.
You've obviously been in the community for a long time, as far as, I mean, you're going on 2.5 years. Like your experience in this business, without a doubt, you've had ups and downs, everything like that. Any advice? Like, what advice would you have for someone looking into this, as far as just getting into the business model in general?
Prepare for the long haul. Uh, it's not gonna be all sunshine and roses. I know there are some people in the community, some that you interviewed, they come in hot, like getting crazy deals with very few mailers. Those are the exception and not the rule. So if you come in expecting you're gonna have that kind of success, I think you're gonna be in a bad spot. So like me, I've sent 8, 15, 20,000 mailers out without a deal. And that can really morally hurt you and financially hurt you. And it got to a point where I put a certain amount of money in my account when I started this. I'm like, once that account goes to zero, I'm done. And there were several times it got within hundreds of dollars of that happening. And then a big $100,000 profit deal saved that, and now it just kind of reamped my business. So you really gotta just pay attention to how much money is going out, and just be very selective of what you're sending mail to. And if it's not working, change strategies. Try texting, try cold calling. But mail is getting really expensive, and it's taking more mail to get a lead. So it's, that is that's the biggest thing I'd say, is just be careful of how much you're spending, and if you're seeing results from that, might be time to try something else.
Yeah, I think making adjustments is like key in any business. Like you go in and you just keep trying to do the same stuff, and it just like, if something like, you got to make adjustments, whatever it is. You obviously switch to cold calling, which is going to get you a higher volume of leads. It sounds like you're really good on the phone, which is you know how to close deals, and your advantage is like you've been doing this so long, you can analyze a deal so fast. So you get a lot of leads. Like you're not taking a lot of time for crap leads, which is a huge value. Um, Shoot, I had something else I wanted to say there. But yeah, that's a good point. Like just being willing to make adjustments, everything like that. So you got down to a couple $100 in your bank. You're like, and then you got saved by $100,000 deal.
Yeah, so this was back in September of 2024. It was a blind offer mailer. It was 80 acres in Illinois, and I offered him 160 or 170, and he countered with either 170 or 180. We were 10 grand off, but he said 180, and I'm like, done deal. And so I ended up reaching out to a realtor in that area, a land agent, and he saw the property and he goes, I think you need to talk to my partner. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And so I ended up talking to this agent's partner, and it turns out that he lives down the street from this property, and the name of the street is the same last name as this land agent. So it turns out his family used to own all the land in that area, and he wanted the property. He's like, I know this property. I want this property from you. He's like, I could sell it for more than I'm going to offer you, but if you sell it to me, you don't have to pay closing costs. You don't have to pay anything. We'll just double close this thing. And so I ended up selling it to the agent for 300,000, and so that was $114,000 profit. That saved the business. And so I've been able to send mail, try different marketing channels with that money.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, you're meant to stay in this business. Oh, that's what I wanted to ask. Compare this business like now or whatever, like as far as to drop shipping, you came from you've done Amazon FBA, which I know can be a hectic business. What's the difference between this business now? Let's just talk about right now. Like, what's the difference between those two businesses? Is this still kind of preferred business model that you would have? You would suggest, I guess?
Absolutely. The drop shipping works, the Amazon FBA works, but you're doing a way more work for a lot less return. I mean, on a typical drop shipping business or Amazon FBA, it's 10 to 20% margins. And so with this, it's exponentially more. So your ROI is insane in this business. And there's no other, like I said before, no other business where you can get that kind of ROI. So I would, if someone's trying to get into the entrepreneurial world, I would say definitely start with land. Don't even bother doing anything else. Don't do anything. Just go in for land, and that's where you'll make some money.
Nice. Well, I'm excited to see what you do in 2025 and beyond. I think you're going to have a huge year. It sounds like you already have some really good things lined up, and it seems like you have a lot of clarity. I think that's the biggest thing is like you have a ton of clarity with where you're going, and you're getting momentum with that. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable where I'm at now. I'm happy. I've finally solved my lead issue, which is the only issue I was having. So I think if we keep on this pace, it'll be a good year, and this is what I plan on doing moving forward. Just keep the strategy moving forward and see what the end of the year looks like, and go from there.
Awesome, Mike. Well, I appreciate you being on. If you guys are watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button below. Leave us a comment. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, share this with your friends. Share it on your Instagram story. Other than that, thank you so much. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
As always, thank you for joining. Please do us a huge favor and like and subscribe our YouTube channel and share this with a friend. It really means the world to Ron and I, but more importantly, it could help change the life of someone else. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next episode.